Concerning the LED screen we have proposed, we recognize three primary issues. First, our application for the sign requested an exception to the sign ordinance. This seemed reasonable to us since the Garfield is the only nonprofit historic theater in the county and has a unique mission and needs. Subsequently, we learned of and understand the issues that exceptions to ordinances can create. We believe there are ways to address these issues. Secondly, there is a valid issue about the slippery slope created by granting approval for an LED sign at the Garfield Center. Again, we think there are ways to manage this. And third, there's the issue of whether an LED sign is an appropriate technology for the town and specifically for the historic district. We will briefly address these three issues. Concerning exceptions to the sign ordinance, there are already specific regulations in the sign ordinance that apply to theaters in the C1 district. During Case Demoy's testimony at the Planning Commission meeting on February 20th, Commissioner Bentley asked, and I quote directly from a transcript of that meeting, "What alternatives may exist that would allow the Garfield to have a resource that fulfills their need for that dynamic display without compromising the rights of the other business owners and the aesthetics of the community?" For this presentation, I'm going to paraphrase Case's response, but the copy I'll give you afterwards has the full text from that transcription. Case responded to Ms. Bentley that there is a precedent that was set when the Chester 5 theaters opened in 1996. Planning Commission made a positive recommendation, Town Council held a hearing like this one, and approved an ordinance in the C1 district that permitted the Chester 5's marquee letterboard signs because, obviously, and I'm quoting here, you can't have a theater and not be able to advertise their shows. Councilmember Mumford asked if this new zoning would apply to the Prince Theater, and the answer was no, because the Prince in the C2 district already had a grandfathered letterboard sign. Case went on to say that one option would be to take the existing ordinance and tweak it to allow that. Ms. Bentley asked, to allow that language to include both C1 and C2? Case replied, C1 and C2. So Case is suggesting that language could be written to permit unique signs for all theaters in the C1 and C2 zones. Later during the Planning Commission meeting, Ms. Williamson asked, "The overwhelming concern that I have is not being able to prohibit other organizations from being able to do the same thing without providing favoritism, without essentially doing spot zoning." Mr. Serino responded, and again I'm paraphrasing, that the town has already done that at theaters. He said that the Garfield made a mistake in its application by asking for an exception only for the Garfield. He said that if the application asked for zoning that applied to all theaters in Chestertown and set limits on the scale, lighting levels, and operation of the signs, then it would not be preferential. You will not find a reference to this alternative in the minutes of the Planning Commission's meeting. These quotes came from a transcript of that meeting. All that was reported is a no vote with no alternatives for your consideration. So Case confirms that the language already exists specifically for theater signs and suggests that language could be written to permit any theater to have a backlit letterboard sign. Chris then confirms the existing zoning language for theaters only and offers that language written for all theaters would address any preferential treatment challenges. This addresses the first two issues we noted above. That is, the ordinance would not be an exception, but would apply to all theaters. And secondly, it would nullify the risk of other businesses, nonprofits, or institutions from requesting an LED sign, the slippery slope. Now to point number 3, concerning the appropriateness of an LED sign in the Historic District. Our community has created and empowered the Historic District Commission to rule on what is and is not appropriate within the Historic District. This is the HDC's purview. They are trained to make these decisions, and they have voted twice that the LED sign we propose, along with the operation manual that defines how and when it will be used, is appropriate in the Historic District. The HDC accepted oversight responsibility for the oversight of the sign as well. Should Town Council approve changes in the sign ordinance that would permit an LED sign at the Garfield, the HDC would have the opportunity to vote yet again on the appropriateness of the Garfield sign, given the recent court ruling. Ladies and gentlemen, the sign we have proposed is the modern equivalent of the large, colorful movie posters that occupied the same space under the marquee in years past. A very good case can be made, and has been made by historic preservation professionals, that an LED sign more accurately represents what was there during the historic period of significance, the movie posters, than the backlit letterboard sign that came along in the 50s well after the historic period of significance. Chestertown can continue to move forward by balancing preservation and innovation. We can adopt appropriate technology without sacrificing our history. We have LED street lights now instead of gas lamps. We have parking meters now, but not during the historic period of significance. The Garfield Center has been called the anchor tenant of downtown Chestertown. The town's comprehensive plan encourages supporting key organizations that contribute to the vitality and future of our town. Our donors have invested over $2 million in the Prince Theater building for the benefit of the entire community. But the Garfield Center must earn the revenue to keep the lights on and the salaries paid. A functional, efficient, tastefully operated LED sign tucked under our marquee at the Garfield will not diminish the historic charm of our town. Responsible leaders, in conjunction with invested citizens, can figure out ways to keep up with the times while not spoiling the historic feel and appearance of this beautiful town.
Last time.
Okay. I hope the mayor and town council will agree that the Garfield Center is a highly desirable and valuable institution in Chestertown, and that we do a wonderful job both preserving the past, literally, with our gorgeous building, and figuratively as a reminder of the social and cultural history of the town's past. The Garfield Center is not a commercial business. It is a struggling nonprofit with a small, overworked staff and with hundreds of volunteers and supporters working tirelessly to enrich this community. A list of our accomplishments and undertakings is attached to the script of this testimony. In 2012, among other things, the Garfield produced 25 days of theatrical productions, 14 concerts, a film festival and 5 other films, a 5-week summer camp with 38 kids, 16 rental nights, 10 open mic nights, revived the Jazz Festival, partnered with the National Music Festival, hosted our first Artist in Residence, hosted the second Community Block Party, and involved more than 9,000 volunteer hours. 2013 is on an even more ambitious pace. We need your help to continue to be successful and to contribute to the success of our town and the historic district. Just like our other partners, the National Music Festival, the Sultana, the Jazz Fest, Tea Party, and others, the Garfield Center needs the town to be its partner as well, to help it thrive and to contribute to a vital, thriving Chestertown. To close, our preferred outcome would be for Town Council to ask the Planning Commission to consider zoning ordinance language that would allow LED screens at all theaters in Chestertown with reasonable restrictions. I expect that there are other actions that you may consider. Our town will need to continuously manage the balance between technology, commerce, and history so that our community will thrive for the next 300 years. We understand that this issue is more than just about the Garfield Center, which is why it is so important and why a wise and reasoned outcome is so important. As it stands right now, the Garfield Center for the Arts is a theater with no sign to announce its events, other than the myriad posters taped to our windows and doors. The Garfield needs your assistance and partnership to figure out a path that will benefit us all. A technicality in our application need not waste all the time, energy, and treasure that has been invested in this issue. Thank you.
Thank you.